After the great success of the Ranking the Crystal Gems by Strength video, combined with quite a bit of folks requesting this next topic, we're here today ranking every Steven Universe fusion from weakest to strongest. I know some folks weren't super thrilled I didn't include some fusions in the Crystal Gem video, which is fair, I get it. But now all of them are going to be covered, so that should PEMDAS things out in my opinion. Now, we gotta keep in mind that there is no definitive or objective way to rank all these fusions. That was somewhat the case for the previous ranking with Steven Universe characters, but it's even more true here. This is due to the fact that some of these fusions just straight up never engaged in any kind of fights with Steven or other gems, or have shown any kinds of feats of strength for that matter. So some of you may be asking, Mark, why are you even making this video if a lot of these fusions haven't done enough to properly rank them? Your questions are very important to me on the VGMarkis channel. So for the bottom portion of this list, I'm going to try to do something a bit different. Basically, I'm going to take every single fusion that hasn't participated in a fight / shown feats of strength, but attempt to order them based on the gems or people that make up said fusion. So up first in last place is the Lemon Jade fusion. You know, that one from the Together Alone episode that got zapped almost immediately. She's cute, and you know, good for her for having the stones to do that in front of the diamonds when she wasn't even a crystal gem. But yeah, this fusion had a total of not even 10 seconds of screen time. Plus, based on the appearances of the two individual gems that make up this fusion, I can't imagine them being that strong. Fluorite's getting the second to last placing here. Despite having some of the most gems making up a single fusion in the series besides the cluster, Fluorite is probably the most anti-violence, chilled out member of the off-colors team. She talks at the same speed as that sloth from Zootopia and seems to move a bit slow to boot. I mean, the wiki page for her only lists engineering under her abilities tab besides the other standard gem abilities that every other one gets. A main reason she gets the edge over Lemon Jade is the more screen time and general survivability skills, I guess, because she was constantly looking over her shoulder for years in those abandoned kindergartens and, you know, never got shattered or poofed. Rhodonite is up next. Initially was going to put her below Fluorite because she's not only made up of less gems, but the two gems she's made of, Ruby and Pearl, are known for being not the strongest fighters in the world. Obviously, those two gems can be stronger if they put their minds to it, but Rhodonite doesn't have much showings outside of pushing that large boulder with the Rutile twins in the Off-Colors episode, but that's still technically more than what Fluorite's done, so gotta keep it fair here. The triple ruby fusion seems fair to have this low. The triple ruby fusion that was composed of the crystal gem ruby and two other rubies from the past. Rubies are typically not that strong to begin with, hence why they travel in groups for the purpose of fusion to make a fight easier, but 3 clearly wasn't enough to deal with Rose / Pink here. I get she's a diamond, but that was still pretty embarrassing for those guys. She one-shot them without even using her sword. The various cluster gems that weren't part of the main cluster are gonna go here. These things are strong, but not that strong because they were able to get poofed by Connie by herself with, I guess, a little bit of help from Steven with, you know, the shield and bubble defenses. This wasn't even Connie at her peak skill level yet. If the two of them had to fuse into Stevonnie, that'd be one thing, but yeah, these things were mostly pushovers in my opinion. Crazy Lace Agate, I actually didn't even realize was a fusion until doing the, you know, research for this video. Unless this was something that was confirmed someplace else that wasn't, you know, from the actual show, I genuinely do not remember it ever being stated this gem was a fusion. Regardless, it's probably safe to say this gem is stronger than the previous mention due to being a quartz fusion. Quartz gems being known for their high physical strength and fighting capabilities. I mean, just look at the way she was playing volleyball with those other gems in future. The amount of force needed to hit that ball that hard combined with the strength needed to receive or get hit by those same hits and not get poofed, it's pretty good stuff. Watermelon Tourmaline is another one I didn't realize was a fusion initially. This one gets the edge over Crazy Lace for me because of what they were able to do in their corrupted form. When corrupted and taking on the form of a pufferfish, she was able to use her breath to her advantage to create incredibly strong gusts of wind that were able to fling Garnet hundreds of feet away, and by the end of the Beach Party episode, require the combined effort of Steven, Pearl, and the Pizza family to poof it. It's possible Watermelon Tourmaline's regular form is weaker than the corrupted one though, because historically speaking, with characters like Steven especially, corrupted gems, while not as mentally sound as a regular gem, are incredibly powerful in a fight. Hence why all the main crystal gems would be required to go on these missions to poof them instead of just sending Garnet or Pearl, for example. This is why she's getting the slight edge here. The two-eared Topaz fusion was quite the formidable foe. Obviously, humans aren't very formidable compared to gems, but she was able to capture several of Steven's friends with no trouble at all. Then when confronted by the crystal gems about this abduction, Topaz was able to kind of overpower Garnet and Amethyst. I'll get more into that in a bit. When unfused, both of them had solid weapon proficiency with a sharp penguin type stick, so it's safe to assume double-sided one by the fusion would pack even more of a punch. It got to a point where before Steven decided to turn himself into Homeworld, the remaining crystal gems resorted to fusing into Alexandrite to save everyone. Also, I think there's been a couple other Topaz fusions as background gems in the Season 5 Homeworld episodes. Just going to lump those guys in here with the first Topaz, but hey, maybe the Homeworld ones are actually stronger because the ones guarding Yellow Diamond's room look like they had more menacing weapons. Who knows? Now for the 5 Ruby fusion of Doc, Eyeball, Army, Navy, and Leggy. Obviously these guys have to be higher than the Trifecta one because there's more of them, thus making them bigger and stronger, but they still didn't really do much of anything. This placing is mainly going off the fact that Garnet and Pearl formed Sardonyx together to take them out in one fell swoop. Not sure if this is because they didn't trust themselves to take on the Ruby fusion as separate gems or if they just wanted to flex on them real quick. This is something I'm sure the crew working on the episode wasn't thinking about at all. This is just me being a freak. But they still did it, and all I can really do is take this little scuffle at face value because of how quick everything went down. Steg only appeared once for a musical number in the Steven Universe movie, but still showcased some pretty cool powers throughout it all, mainly showing just how strong and agile he can be in the air while singing, like throwing Pearl around like it was nothing and projecting some of Steven's pink diamond powers onto others in the audience. He didn't do much in terms of fighting, obviously, but it's one of those things where because Steven is one of the characters that's a part of the fusion, I'm giving it an edge over the previous listed ones since Steven is one of the strongest characters in the entire show. Putting Stevonnie kind of on this lower side, I'm sure is going to ruffle some feathers out there because of how much of a fan favorite they are, but it is what it is. Stevonnie's obviously a strong fusion that was almost strong enough to poof Jasper, but besides that, a lot of this character's screen time wasn't really being used for combat. There was the Jasper fight, the training against the Hollow Pearls, and that's pretty much it. Even still, being able to take on a gem as strong as Jasper is nothing to scoff at. They definitely deserve to be above Steg because of how much more experience Connie and Steven have together with this fusion and just fighting in general. Personally, wish they could be higher. It's just every other fusion from here on out is quite simply stronger. The Mary Poppins-esque fusion between Steven and Pearl, Rainbow Quartz 2.0, is another charming fusion I wish we could have seen more of. Most of his powers come from his Parasol weapon, which is a fusion of Steven's shield and Pearl's spear. Very creative way to fuse two weapons together. The strongest part of this fusion seems to be his light access to telekinesis, which was shown in the Steven Universe Future episode where Pearl and Steven had to babysit Onion, and when they turned into Rainbow, they were able to repulse him back up the stairs without even touching him. It's currently unknown the limits of how far this power goes and if it's able to do this to creatures or objects larger than the size of Onion or not. Only reason I'm giving this fusion the edge over Stevonnie despite having less screen time is because it contains more gem DNA for lack of a better phrasing, but it's also Pearl and Steven and they're a pretty nasty combo on paper. Pearl was the one who taught Connie everything she knows about sword fighting and as far as I'm concerned was never able to fully surpass Pearl's skill ceiling. OG Rainbow Quartz is also a weird one because that's another fusion that was only shown for one, scene for visual eye candy and a music number, but in theory could be ridiculous since it's Rose/Pink Diamond in full gem form with Pearl. Ranking this one in a proper manner feels borderline impossible, so hopefully most of y'all won't hold it against me if I just pair it with Rainbow 2.0. I appreciate the patience. Bluebird's gotta be one of the weirdest fusions in my opinion because even though it's a strong one, it almost feels like it's weaker than those two gems as individuals. I'm not sure if Aquamarine just lost her special wand weapon, but that weapon was so hilariously broken, I don't understand why she wasn't using it in future. Regardless, Bluebird was quite the versatile fusion, able to catch Steven off guard a few times and even forcing him into his pink form at one point after they forced Greg to cut his hair off. She's fast, can fly, and uses a very sharp cutlass type sword that can fire projectile clones of itself, kind of similar to Pearl's spear, though it's not strong enough to break through Steven's shield. Wish we got to see more of this fusion because it would have been cool to further explore the concept of these few homeworld gems that were never able to adapt to Era 3's way of life. Garnet's obviously incredibly strong. I can see arguments of having her even higher on the ranking than this perhaps. She stood as the most skilled fighter of the crystal gems until Steven developed more of his own diamond powers over the years, beat Jasper in a fight, and honestly I think she could have beat the Topaz fusion if she wasn't, using the chance of human lives getting hurt in the process of said fight. She's very fast, has the future vision, great durability, just a solid all-round fighter. Keeping my thoughts on Garnet pretty light since I just went over her pretty extensively in the previous ranking video for the crystal gems, so if you want to hear more reasons on why she's strong, be sure to check out that video. The Zebra Jasper, or if you prefer the name Corrupted Jasper fusion from the episode Earthlings, is essentially a more brutish and physically strong version of Solo Jasper. After struggling to beat Smoky Quartz by herself, she fused with the corrupted version of the Ocean Jasper in an attempt to gain the upper hand in the fight. Initially, Zebra Jasper was able to withstand the wind from Smoky's yo-yo, but once Smoky summoned another yo-yo for even stronger wind, it forced the two gems to unfuse. Obviously, not much showing it only appeared in one episode, but it's one of those things where Jasper probably has one of, if not the best battle IQ in the series. I can't believe I just used the term battle IQ unironically for a Steven Universe video. I actually want to vomit, but it is true though. So if she thought fusing in that moment would make her stronger, then I gotta take her word for it. The Mega Pearl fusion of Pink Diamond's pearls was able to show quite a bit in their short screen time, arguably one of the strongest fusions in terms of physical strength due to being able to break the Reef's facility shell, something that Steven was struggling to do at one point in pink form, followed by making a complete joke out of the rest of the place's security system, maneuvering through the lasers with high speeds and quick precision, not quite getting through all of it, but still. Her weapon's got some extra diversity to it too. It's got the regular ribbon wand form, but can also change itself into a drill shape to make breaking down obstacles easier. Man, it feels like Future had a lot of one-off episode fusions, more of a reason we need some kind of continuation for this IP. Smoky Quartz is definitely one of my personal favorite fusions from the show, not just because they're voiced by Natasha Lyonne. Okay, maybe a little. Point is, it feels good to have them in the upper half of a fusion strength video. Like I mentioned earlier, they were able to take down Jasper without receiving any damage at all from her or her corrupted fusion. The episode Know Your Fusion seems to imply Smoky is actually physically weaker than Stevonnie, but I feel like they more than make up for it with the insane range and versatility with their yo-yo weapon. They have the super strong wind gust, can attack directly from a safe distance, and even use it to fly. Plus, Smoky is the only fusion we've seen get affected by Pink Steven's power enhancements, though I'm sure the other fusions involving Steven would have the same effect if his half of the fusion was undergoing a lot of stress while fused. Sunstone, the best fourth wall breaker Steven Universe has ever seen. Sunstone falls into a similar category of both Rainbow Quartz fusions and Steg, in the sense that they're a fusion of two of the strongest members of the Crystal Gems, so despite not having a ton of screen time or, feats of strength, we can still go off of how fusion as a concept works to at least give them this ranking as compensation. But in terms of what they have actually done, tanking that stomp from the 4 diamond ship fused together was pretty wild. It straight up took no damage at all, didn't get poofed. Compare that to gems like Blue Zircon getting poofed from just Yellow Diamond's finger, it just goes to show how durable these fusions can get. Putting Sugalite at this point of the video feels pretty fair to me. The Know Your Fusion episode has them as the strongest fusion of the Crystal Gem team physically, but that's kind of all she really has going for her. I want to reiterate that point that I don't think ranking Steven Universe characters is as simple as who can punch the hardest or lift the most weight. Though with that being said, Sugalite's physical strength and almost berserker-like nature is so intense, she still deserves to be on the higher end here, making quick work of that giant gem communications hub and having the upper hand against Pearl in the majority of their fight. Her downfall ended up being her overconfidence / lack of awareness of her surroundings, because while Pearl didn't beat her physically, she outwitted her by using Sugalite's own weapon against her. Just goes to show that strength can only take you so far when you're not very bright. Gonna give Opal the number 6 spot. Obviously her physical strength is really high, being able to carry the gem drill for the cluster with no issue, as well as being very graceful and precise with her movements like Mega Pearls, but I think Opal's signature bow and arrow weapon and the accuracy she has with it is the scariest part about this fusion. These arrows not only travel insanely far, but they can automatically bubble gems upon contact, at least smaller-ish ones. However, if those don't work, the exploding arrows are always an option. Unfortunate that didn't work on Jasper's ship, but it was worth a shot. The bubbling thing really is kind of insane though, because once a gem is bubbled, they literally can't do anything unless an outside source breaks it for them. It feels like that ability is absurdly overlooked at times. Into the top 5 territory, we got Sardonyx. Sardonyx just feels like Opal but better. Where Sardonyx lacks the range that Opal has, she has more than enough to make up for it with high mobility, higher physical strength, and arguably even more precise movements. Sardonyx is explicitly known for her calculating nature and precision, taking down that gem tower in such a specific way to where it would fall apart in the exact way she wanted it to, while not making the process too slow either. Then there's the giant hammer weapon she has, which obviously packs a punch. One hit was enough to instantly poof at 5 Ruby Fusion. Pearl and Garnet were known to be the strongest fighters on the remaining team for a while, so it's only natural their fusion would be very strong. Kinda sucks she didn't really appear much at all after the Know Your Fusion episode outside of her Steven tag form in that one episode from Future. Malachite was one of the scariest fusions in Steven Universe for a while in terms of her story relevance, and she continues to be one of the strongest fusions in the entire series. She was basically Earth's biggest threat for a bit, hence why Lapis's half of the fusion had to keep them submerged under the ocean for ages until they were finally able to split apart. Her hydrokinesis took what Lapis could do a step further by turning bubbles of water into ice spears. She still had Jasper's spin dash move and helmet, and could fly. Pretty self-explanatory fusion if we're being real. The only fusion that was able to best Malachite was our number 3 spot, Alexandrite. The close to ultimate fusion of every main Crystal Gem member besides Steven, Alexandrite basically has all the best attributes of the previous Crystal Gem fusions: the strength of Sugalite, the dexterity of Sardonyx, and the extra range of Opal. Throwing in fire breath power from the lower mouth, because why the fuck not? Fire is always cool. Anytime the gems want to get serious or end a fight quickly, Alexandrite is usually their way to go. Plus, she's by default stronger than Malachite because she won that fight in the end. It wasn't easy, but, she won. Only things that were really able to deal with Alexandrite in the past were Blue Diamond's Sadness Projection and Aquamarine's Broken Ass Syndrome Wand. Our silver medal medal goes to the Cluster, a giant geo weapon fused together through millions of different gem shards. This fusion was so dangerous, it initially had the power to destroy the entirety of planet Earth until Steven got them to bubble each other. Then when some of them re-emerged in Season 5 and future, they were strong enough to take down Yellow Diamond's arm ship and hold back Pink Steven for a brief period of time before heading back to the Earth's crust, which by default makes them about the same physical strength as Alexandrite or Malachite. Plus, it seems to be immune to Blue Diamond's power for whatever reason, unless it was just out of range in that fight. Problem is, measuring the full potential of the Cluster is weird because the times it's fought, it's only been part of it fighting. But I guess if the whole thing tried to fight, then the Earth would just explode, so it's like, yeah, it's kind of impossible. Finally, our strongest fusion in the series goes to Obsidian. Even though this fusion only appeared one time in the Season 5 finale, this feels like another self-explanatory fusion in a lot of ways. Alexandrite was already stronger than Malachite, so now we throw Steven, a diamond, into the mix of the other guys, and we get a fusion that, by all counts, should be objectively stronger than the previous. Their weapon is a giant molten sword made up of all the crystal gem weapons that slice through Blue and Yellow Diamond's arm ships like they were paper. This feat in particular is one of the main reasons I'm giving Obsidian the edge over the Cluster arm, because it struggled against Yellow Diamond's ship for a bit. Super strong physically, of course, able to scale the majority of the Diamond ship mecha before getting poofed. I am a bit surprised how they were able to get poofed, but I guess White's head is just a lot stronger than Pink's legs. I can only imagine how strong the original Obsidian could have been with Rose/Pink Diamond in the mix. Feels like it just can't lose to any opponent at that point. Like, seriously. That'll do it for this ranking today. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought of this ranking, what you might agree or disagree with in terms of placements. I'd love to know your thoughts. Or if there's any other ranking style videos you'd like to see, feel free to suggest those too. Don't be a stranger to leaving a like down below and subscribing for more content like this in the future. Huge thanks to my gold tier patrons, BFP4, Izzy Torium, Draconis, and London Morse. You guys' support really means the world to me. But for now, I will see you guys next time. Peace out, take care, bye-bye.